My goodness, when we first thought about coming to Nashville, we never thought it was going to be like this. Oh my God, it's such a pleasure and an honor to be here with you all, and just know that the illuminated collective consciousness is at work. When David first told me this so many years ago, I was like, what? Illuminate the collective consciousness? Oh my God, I'm in. Let's do this. And here we are, just years down the road here, and he has touched so many people. It is just, I've recorded people talking about what he's done. I've been there when things have happened. It's, this stuff is real. And we are all on this journey together, and we all bring something to the table. And when all those pieces come together, it just expands this beautiful experience of illuminating the collective consciousness. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce my dear, dear friend, David Lawrence Palmer.
Well, thank you guys for all being here, and ladies for being here today. I truly appreciate it. I know how hard it is to come out to an event in 2018 when you can just sit on Facebook all day. People don't go out no more. But David actually brought up a great topic at the beginning of our journey this tour, which is the world can only happen when you're in the world. When you're sitting at home and you're upset and you're down on your luck on that day, it's like, did you go anywhere? No. Well, you weren't in Monopoly. Sorry, you didn't get to roll the dice. And that's the thing about the world, is you got to be out in the world. And so I truly appreciate that you guys are all here. And of course, I truly appreciate all the support. It's always mind-boggling to me when I come into a town and meet people who watch, because it's like when I'm watching that camera, it's just like, it's just me and a camera. So it just kind of mind boggles me that you're all here, and I truly appreciate that. And, every city that I've done has been with a purpose. When we were at Denver, we did relationships, the future of relationships coming up. When we did Chicago, it was the future of astrology, which wasn't what's the next natal chart going to be. It was actually more about aliens and understanding how to use your astrology as a tool to the craziest things that are coming. When I did New York, it was about the future of money and business. When I did D.C., it was about government. And now we're down here. We're not fully in the South, but we're deeper in the South. And I really want to talk. Are we? Okay, all right. I know you Southerners don't like even being called part of the North, right? No, not the North, not the North. We are not in Game of Thrones. We are not in the North. There is no winter freaking coming. We're in the South. I better walk carefully here. I know. I'm in the new confederacy called California. Have you guys ever heard of it? And believe me, I'm not for that movement, by the way, actually. But what are we going to be talking about today? Well, of course, I don't want you to think that we're only going to sit on one subject and only hit that subject. But everything I'm going to talk today is going to be about how the future is going to be affecting the family, our traditions, our home, our emotions, but even more importantly, and I think this is one of the most important cornerstones of this talk, because at the end of the day, our roots spiritually and the changes that are happening in the world to what that looks like are important. It's a lot like a tree, right? If the roots aren't in the right spot and they aren't growing right, your tree ain't going to grow well. And we're in a world right now where families are changing. So much is changing in this aspect that it's almost like people are losing it because they're not seeing the way that the future's going. And so today we're going to be bringing up a lot of different subjects and how it affects that. Because I don't want you to think that you just came here to come to some maternity talk today or something, and you guys all get the babies in the back and learn to feed it. It isn't going to be like that today. I think where we should start first is This has been a gnarly ride to get to today. With the VIPs earlier, we were talking about the 2012 movement and how big that was. And how the last 6 years has been extreme when it comes to awakening with your spiritual self and awakening inside. But what's the most interesting to me is what follows that. Because that's just starting the engine in the parking lot. You know, that isn't even pulling the car out of the driveway and going yet, which I feel 2018 is the beginning of. That feeling inside like we got to go. It's time for us to see what this is all about. And we're in a world right now, especially, that when it comes to traditions, when it comes to values, that's why I picked Nashville as this place to do it, because this is a place that holds the last bit of traditions and values in certain ways. I live in California where traditions and values, what are those? You know? They don't exist, really. But are they going to continue to exist in the world in which we live in the future? Maybe. When we look at the astrology and we look at what we're at right now, we're at one of the most major astrological combinations that is ever going to be happening since 1282. We have something called the Pluto and Saturn cycle. Pluto and Saturn come together every 33 years. The last time they came together was in 1983 and 1984. Wasn't that fun times, everybody? No, up here in the front row. No, not at all. And the reason why this transit is so intense is because when you got Pluto, which, holy mo, I call him the Grim Reaper. He likes to sit way in the back, all the way at the end of the solar system, just looking at everybody going, and then you got Saturn, which, of course, is the last planet we can see, who is the one ruling the reality. And it's like Al Capone and his hitman hanging out when they come together. Because what happened the last time that Pluto and Saturn conjuncted in 1983? That was the beginning of divorce. It happened in the sign of Libra, where it was like, all right, divorce is going to happen. Whereas, you know, in the 70s, when people were smoking pot in secret at their house, they were kind of like, can you believe the Joneses got divorced? Whoa. In the 80s, it was like, yeah, I can get it. You know, it was a totally different change in, wow, divorce can happen? You got to look at relationships, especially for the last, since that point, have been hell on earth. Relationships have been this weird space that everybody's trying to understand. How does that affect us now? If you look at 2018, we're at a place where when it comes to what we hold traditionally in understanding of relationships, whether that's the relationship we have with our family members, our lovers, our friends, we're in a world where we're at the end of the cycle. Because yes, I just said that we're at the beginning of this new cycle with Pluto and Saturn, but that means we're ending a cycle. And to me in astrology, the end of cycle is more exciting than the beginning because you get to see the effect and you get to see the end of the wave and you get to see it crash and you get to see, you know, if the bikini top came off that chick or not. You know what I mean? When I was 12, that's what I used to do, sitting at the beach, waiting for that. That happens a lot, believe it or not. And so when you look at the last time Pluto and Saturn conjunct in 83 and 84, it was in Libra. Relationships, balance. There has been every relationship that you talk to, anybody has been through the craziest relationships of their life, and it's been almost this extreme cycle over the last 33 plus years because Pluto and Saturn is in exact 33, but there's always the 2 years right before is there Pluto or Saturn's coming up, and then the 2 years after. So, you know, you go back to that time, this last 34, 35 years has been just like relationship crazy. And the values of traditions and relationships, because what are values? It's Saturn. And what is Pluto? Death to tradition when it comes on Saturn and says reset and recreate and ascend to a transcendent new level. And so relationships, especially when it comes to how our roots are coming to this massive ending crash. And it was interesting in 84 and 85, when Pluto came into Scorpio officially, Saturn was there. So the Pluto-Saturn transit not only happened at the very end of Libra, but then it went into Scorpio, which what is Scorpio? Bow, chicka, bow, wow. Your deeper, real wants that you don't tell anybody. You know? Like when you're in line and you're like, that person stinks, but I'm not going to say anything. Hi, nice. Yeah. Scorpio is our hidden self. It is our hidden agendas too. Why do you think Scorpio rules manipulation? Oh, look at that person right there. I'll wait till that one moment. And then, yeah, okay. And you can get where you want to go. But when Pluto and Saturn entered into Scorpio in 85 and 86, guess what comes out? HIV. Actually, it was an interesting time because it dealt with sex, too. It was kind of like, especially for the gay revolution, right? It was like, okay, wow, people are gay and it's going to go down, you know? People weren't ready for that. People weren't ready for, you know, sexually transmitted diseases. That was something in the 70s and 60s. I didn't get to experience it, but if you guys were there, you lucky fucking bastards. Didn't have to worry about none of that stuff. Condom? What's that? Right? Trojan condoms and all them got big in the 80s. Holy cow. Getting the condom biz back then. I should have been an astrologer when Pluto and Saturn were in Scorpio. Getting the condom biz. Get a clinic by the 90s going. But that also changed what we thought of sex. What happened at that time as well with sex? Pornography was at the movie theaters, and it was like you went to a theater to watch a film, and it was an actual film where it was like, oh, hi, how are you doing today? I'm doing wonderful. I came here to get some pizza. Yeah, well, I've got a great pizza for you. In the 80s, it turned to VHS tape where it was just like, fuck the story, get in her fucking pussy now, you know? The 80s also brought out things like Michael Jackson and brought out of an intensity of like feeling like, man, I could feel this in my life. Whereas there was like huge blocks in the world of allowing yourself to live your shadow side. In the 80s, the shadow came out and people were like, well, if I'm going to smoke crack, I can do it right here behind this fucking dumpster. It's amazing. I love watching Pluto Saturn when it does. But why is this so significant to today? Because when you take Libra and you take Scorpio, this is the glue, the sex, the deep truth. Because a relationship's just a relationship, right? In Libra, it's always just like, hi, we're doing a relationship. It's like Trump at G7 right now. Like, are we going to trade or not? You know, are we going to really do it or not? That's all Libra is negotiation or marriage, right? Here, okay, you say your vows and then guess what? You're signing. That's Libra, diplomatic. What is Scorpio? Okay, I'm in this relationship, but like, that doesn't smell good, or, ooh, that's really good. Or, you know, I always say it's the difference between the back getting scratched all the way, or, yeah, that was an okay orgasm. You really get to 0 or 100 and where you're at in that 0 to 100 in Scorpio. But that's the glue to relationships is Scorpio. Without glue, without depth, without that deeper feeling, that deeper yes, then it's just a handshake and a signed contract. And then it's just two people that have a really good relationship, but don't have an emotional, deep, fuck yeah, motherfucker, woo! But then there's the opposite side, right? Where it's like, oh my God, that was the best sex I ever had in my life. But they're a train wreck. My God. I can't even deal with them. I can't even sit in a car with them. They just drive all crazy or, you know. She just smokes meth all day. Like, I just can't do this, you know. It's not going to work. Like, I try to bring her home for Christmas and she thinks that she's blowing snow clouds and it's fucking meth clouds, you know. Like, not going to work. So, true story. The 2000s, put it that way, you know. You guys remember the 2000s? So when you get these two signs that have been going through hell, because what is Pluto and Saturn together? Hell. Because it's the farthest, deepest down to the bottom to change and deal and bring it all up to the surface. There is no more, fluffy energy with Pluto Saturn. When Al Capone comes to this hitman, it's like, okay, I can't try and like smooze you. I'll get the money for you. It's kind of like that. It's like Fargo, right? Okay, I'll get the money for you. Everything goes to shit, right? Now, they're both in Capricorn as we're talking today, and guess what's happening next year? Oh, Pluto and Saturn come up and go in the sign that deals with tradition, in the sign that deals with where our destiny and road leads. The hardest part about Capricorn is it's the opposite sign of Cancer. Because why is that such a big deal? Well, when you have Cancer, which deals with home and family and security and nurturing and loving and the comforts of home, you come into Capricorn and it's like, I got my business suit on, I'm going to work, I got shit to do, and I got to get there, or else that home ain't going to even exist. And that's what's going to be very tough when Saturn's in its home sign of Capricorn and Pluto's there just exaggerating it to the most extreme degrees. And then what happens at the end of 2019? Oh, the planet Jupiter comes into Capricorn where it's at its fall. It doesn't like to be. And what else happens in 2019? Oh, the north and south nodes move into Capricorn. And where do all the eclipses go when the nodes come in? They come into Capricorn. So you're going to have solar eclipses in 2019 in Capricorn, Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which takes over 33 years to happen, which is extreme, and the planet Jupiter at its fall position. The last time that all these happened was 1282. Which, do you guys know what happened right after 1282? Yeah, all right. The first time out of anybody in any city that actually said the Dark Ages. Nashville's got it going down. This calls for me to pop open a Sprite. Wow, I was waiting for that pop moment, you know what I mean? So why are we talking about Libra and Scorpio so much, about this new traditional crazy system? Because Capricorn's a system, right? It's an earth sign. It's literally, if you were to look at this building, it's the structures, the poles that hold the building together. So Capricorn does not like change, right? Because if you were to come into this building and be like, hey, we're going to redo it all, like, we're going to need to get rid of these beams and everything, you're like, wait what? Like, you're going to gut the whole thing out and everything? No. What, that means I can't be in it? Like, it's going to be completely decimated? Yeah. The reason why that we got to connect this to Libra and Scorpio is because that cycle's ending. And as a new structure and new traditions are about to begin in the world, and we're going to go really deep into this, finally, relationships and sex and all that great, deeper, yummy stuff at the bottom of your deep shadow self can finally feel comfortable for once to help transition through the craziest transition we'll ever go through in our life of a whole entire new structure, traditional structure in the world. When you look at things like Christmas, or you look at birthdays, or you look at everything, everyone that you keep going to, it just feels a little bit less, And no, it's not because when you were a little kid and it felt more strong. Even the kids now today are like, Santa's not real. I just want to go on my toy and go outside. And I'm on my iPhone or whatever. We're coming into a world to where we need to have the right relationships and the right people to actually come into dealing with these heavy transitions that are about to come in the world. Because that's the place that's been the most difficult, is the right people. And the reason why, and I've said this at all of them, because it's with astrology, I'm so limited, right? It's like, okay, so Pluto and Saturn are coming here. They're finishing Libra and Scorpio. And how does this relate to the new traditions of home and family? Well, number one is every home and family, especially since the 80s, has not felt normal with the way that relationships have been. Relationships have been fucking crazy. It's like, back in the 50s, it was just kind of like, there was a breadwinner and then there was a wife or whatever. And it was just kind of like, okay, it was all there. This one has been just like every family situation's crazy. You're like, what is going on here? What is going on there? I don't know, because every relationship is just so different and so weird and so misaligned. And why is that? Because what happens this November and October? Do you guys know? Jupiter's leaving Scorpio. Thank God, somebody just said. And Venus is coming to retrograde in Scorpio and Libra over the place that Pluto and Saturn conjuncted. Now, I always look at Venus and Jupiter as Swiffer, and do you guys remember like Chip from Beauty and the Beast, and how happy they were to just do everything? Yay, we're going to clean it up and make you this and da-da-da. That's Venus, Jupiter. And so Jupiter's been cleaning up a huge mess with relationships and deep sex stuff and all this stuff that happened, because guess what happened in 2012? Actually, even go back to 2009. Saturn was in Libra, but it didn't come to the position of where Saturn and Pluto had come together last time until 2012. In January of 2012, Saturn had finally made it to the last degrees of Libra, and then it retrograded backwards. And at that time, it was an interesting time because it started to bring up major relationship stuff, because the last time that Saturn's on a 28 and a half, 30-year cycle, right? So in 2012, if you look back to 1983, of course, 30 years ago. So if you look at what's been happening through this last 6 years, not only through spiritual consciousness and this awesome revolution, but you've had this extreme Saturn energy that's finally starting to try and understand what the hell this last 30-year cycle has been about, because there was no Pluto on its back this time. So it's like, okay, I can actually try and fix this shit and get it back to operating conditions. But the problem is when Saturn went through here, it was a major time in our ascension. It was also a major time when Saturn came into Scorpio in 2012 of all these dead bodies littered everywhere energetically in ourselves, our fears. There was a lot of fear on the planet as the ascension came through, because we realized as light workers there was so much darkness in this world. And so when it comes to relationships, well, when everybody says, I'm looking for my twin flame, it's because everybody and all the energy has been focused on this place for 33 years, and it's like literally ready to just explode and be free. And the good news is Venus is going to retrograde over this, and Venus is the rebalancer, the bringer of love, the bringer of the feminine energy. And all this stuff is going to help us realign our whole lives forward with the right people. Now, don't clap, because we ain't there yet, and it's fucking hell until we get to that place. And if you think that it's just going to feel like that tomorrow, oh my gosh, wait till you hit this summer. Because every relationship on the planet is about to go through its most biggest decision. And how is that going to affect how home and family really works? I actually think it's going to bring it to a better level than we ever thought it was once before. Because If you look at the 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, and you look at how families and traditions were, children were your social security card. Well, I'm raising Billy because he's going to make sure the farm stays so we can stay alive to survive. Oh, and Chrissy Ann's going to grow up and be a great cook and make sure she makes the clothes for us. That's literally what family meant, was your social security card. And if you didn't have family or if you didn't have children, it was like the most like, you didn't have a child? You know, it was like people looked at you like you were crazy. But now we live in a world where it's like, no, I don't want to have children. I'm fucking George Clooneying it all the way, you know? Well, what do you think's about to happen now that all this stuff's coming into Capricorn? All this relationship's going to be fixed. And what goes into Aquarius next? Pluto. There's a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in 2020. In 2023, Pluto comes in. What is Aquarius? It's the water bearer. It's not a water sign. You know, so many people always say, oh, yeah, Aquarius, water. I'm always like, oh, man, let me, like, sit you down for a second. Sit down here. Here's a little bit of this. You're good. I'm going to jump you forward because what's coming up in Aquarius is families are going to need each other more than ever. The reason why is because what happened the last time that Pluto was in the opposite sign of where it is right now? Cancer. The Depression and the beginning of World War II. And that time was like survival mode. I just need a job to keep alive. People would do anything for a piece of bread. They would literally have soup lines. It's weird that we live in the opposite world right now where it's like literally there's more jobs ever in the world, but everybody's too good for them. It's like, oh, yeah, I saw that on Craigslist, but no, I can't do that. It's fucking, you know, every time I go through Burger King, it says help wanted, but I'm just like, no, I'm too good for that. We live in a society now where everybody's too good because what is Capricorn? Oh, yeah, snooty patootie. Oh, that's not fucking high enough. You're not going to get nowhere. Well, when all this stuff's coming up, our foundation now, with all this stuff coming into Aquarius in the 2020s, is going to be that somebody's going to be holding the water. Somebody's going to be holding a position over us in where it's not that our family's going to be a social security card, but maybe it is in a weird way spiritually. That our families are going to be the place where we come to make sure we can get where we need to go. It's a lot like if you look at your purpose in your life, whatever that might be, you're going to realize that when it comes to the new foundation of your life, that your family is going to be the place where it is in alignment with where you're going. Where lately it's like, well, Billy's going to school in Pennsylvania, and Johnny's going over here to there, and blah, blah, and I can't wait to go and just retire on this house and be done. Like, really? That's a family now? Like, when I say relationships are changing, I literally mean including your family ones, where everybody's... Because the way that the world is about to change, you're going to want the best team, your family, to be with you, all deciding where we're going. I'm not going to be surprised when I see in the next 5 years families that are all running together in the same direction, that are all planning to help each other out, because at the end of the day, the world's about to change on the greatest scale we've ever seen. And your family is going to be the only place that you can come to for some sort of solace. And if they're all broken apart and everybody's in for their own selves, well, where do you got to go? That's why Cancer is home. That's why Cancer is family. And guess what all these planets are going to do? Oppose Cancer. Which means that the reflection of where we're going is based upon where is our roots at. Like, I can't do this job without having my family and my support team of my family. My mom, my dad, they support me 100% with this. When I talk to other astrologers, man, my mom doesn't like that I do this, or my dad is really deep into Christianity and he thinks I'm the devil. Well, that's probably not why you're touring in Nashville today. Support is everything. And when a world starts to change its complete traditions and structures completely, how are you going to get anywhere if you don't have a support system that is in your nucleus of who you are? Now, family, of course, might change enough to where maybe even friends can form families or communities can form more family-like vibes. But at the end of the day, this year, the relationship dynamics that are changing are causing you to make sure that everybody's aiming in the right or same direction as you. Because if there's anybody in your life not aiming in the right direction, Capricorn is such a harsh sign that if you're on the trail, okay, and we're all going, we're going up to the mountain, okay, and somebody goes, ow, I hurt my leg. The Capricorn looks, well, you can't keep coming. You're going to have to go back and get taken care of down there. We're still going without you. Sorry. And we're in a world to where it is tougher. When you get all these planets in Capricorn, that's coming in 2019. When you get this much, we have to be the toughest we've ever been in our whole life. We're dealing in a world right now where you got Neptune and Pisces, which is sensitive to the max of your soul, but it's also the most divisive. What happened in the last time Neptune was in Pisces? 1848 through 1864. Oh, it was the gold rush, and everybody was like, okay, and then it was Civil War. It was divisiveness, because the only way to understand true compassion is show you the most opposite form of that. So when Neptune's in Pisces, everybody thinks, oh yeah, this is going to be fucking great. It's also why marijuana's everywhere now, and everybody's losing it, whether it's this drug or that drug or this thing, to suppress the sensitivities of how high the vibration is on the planet right now. So if you don't have if you look at how Pisces looks at Capricorn and then it looks at Cancer in such an awesome direction, if you don't have a family in a good, secure spot and a nice home, whatever that might be, because I'm not going to say it's traditional, like a mom and a dad and a soccer ball. My favorite comedian, and I hump like this. Hi, kids. It's not like that. But if you look at from Pisces and it looks sextile to Capricorn and it looks trine to Cancer, to deal with our spiritual, sensitive selves, especially to reach such a crazy place, we've got to have a trine to Cancer. We've got to have, and that's where the North Node's come in, is Cancer. That's what we're aiming towards. So even though, yes, we all know we have this huge spiritual journey we've got to go on, and we've got all this crazy light work to do, and we've got to change the world and do all these great things. Well, the North Node's coming into Cancer at the end of this year and all through next year, and guess what that means? We all have to find our home, because all of us spiritual people haven't found that home yet. Like, where is the spiritual home? We definitely don't got a church. We definitely don't got a place to go except places like Facebook groups or a really cool app called the Future Life app. Which, by the way, you can get that one for $5.99 a month. You just check it out. I got a thing upstairs. We don't got a home. That's the thing, is we don't got a home. You know? And so that's what's going to be coming during this crazy transit, is a new home. But it's not going to be easy, because Capricorn also requires us to be embedded, literally, in the work So it's like needing to have a family and a support team and all that understand that we're all doing our journey, but all supporting each other on their journey, right? Opposed to breaking off, like, I'm going to go on my own journey. Like, I'll come in on Christmas and support you with a gift. That's nice support. That gift card to Bed Bath & Beyond went wonders with me. I used that towel for like 3 months and I threw it away. Like, that's the other thing with Uranus and Taurus now. It's also showing us that higher vibrational things are not money or possessions that are meaningless, because you got to remember that Taurus rules our highest value systems. So we need to start to value now people, Uranus, higher. That includes our family. That includes these people. And it's going to be a really tricky situation, because I think at the end of the day, it's like nobody, based off Cancer and Capricorn in the skies, nobody can get to the top of the mountain without the proper Cancerian foundation of support. Because if we go back to the mountain thing and the Capricorn turning around being like, you're fucked, go back home, Cancer's the one who brings, I got a first aid kit. Oh, okay. The Capricorn goes, okay, fix it up real quick. We got to go. Come on, fix it up. Having that support gets you to still stay on the trail instead of being left behind. I love how the Christians use, and there was a great big book and a movie called Left Behind. You're left behind, motherfucker. You weren't on the train. There was a movie, and it was like, hey, we're all left behind, man. What happened to all these amazing, beautifully great people with perfect teeth and perfect houses who were just doing it so perfect? That movie blew my mind that they actually put that into the consciousness of people. Like, be this way, and you will be going wherever you want to go to heaven. If that is not Lucifer, I don't know who is. The trickster. So the support systems that are having to come into place over this next year and a half, well, starting in November, December, when the nodes change, is we all have to figure this shit out, because there are so many great people right now in the spiritual communities and here in this room, and we all want to go towards our greatest goals. But we all are going to realize that we can't do it if the wrong people, no support system. And that's the tricky part, because when you're dealing with Scorpio, where Venus is going to retrograde this year and Mars is in retrograde right now, I'm finishing, there's shadow parts of ourselves. It's like, yeah, really, I really want this. But Uranus is now in Taurus being like, but is it really quality and good for you? I use the example of like a stripper or something. Because it's like, stripper is really fun, but like, is it going to even give me anything good at the end of the day? It's starting us to look at our value systems extremely as we pick our team, our new family, for the support to get where we really want to go in our lives. Because I guess we'll use a Christian example of Noah's Ark. This is the ark being built with all this Capricorn to get us to where our destinies lie. And so for people who still go in 2018, I don't know where I'm going. I still don't get it. I've been looking, because that's the number one thing I get. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know who to be, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, too, all this Capricorn is going to be the hardest that you've ever been in your life, because Capricorn is a cardinal sign. It means you have to take action. You have to put your foot in front of the other and walk that way. Why do you think Uranus is finishing in Aries here at the end of the year, as it's going to jump back in? You've got to find empowerment in self to get to the higher place. And the spiritual community has turned the ego into a Lamborghini or a Z06 Corvette with a guy named Leo King in California. When that's not ego, sorry. Ego is, I have enough confidence to know what noun I want. A person, a place, a thing. People who have difficulty knowing where they want to go in their life have zero ego. I don't know where I'm going. Well, what's the noun? I always talk to them like elementary school. Fill in the blank. Here's a Mad Lib book. Person, place, thing. The best is, I want to be happy. That's a verb. I want to feel, spiritual. It's a verb, and there's a little adjective stuff going on here. Where's the noun? And that's Uranus and Aries, which is finishing because it's not over, right? Uranus comes back at the end of this year and stays there at the beginning of January into February, and then finally comes back into Taurus. So we're not done with, even in ourselves, defining exactly, fully those nouns in our life for that exact identity of who we are and what we want to be. So it's the perfect timing if you look at 2019. It's like, holy mother of God. You've got Uranus finishing in Aries at the beginning, the nodes coming into Capricorn, Saturn and Pluto conjuncting this huge cycle with Jupiter coming in at the end of 2019, and they're all hitting all at this extreme moment to change the world. Now, on the outside world, of course, you guys are going to hear from every astrologer on the fucking TV or online. The governments are going to change, and money's going to change, and all that shit fucking... Great. It's been going on a long time. That one's been going on a long time. That's not new. What's new is a bunch of awake people going to do the greatest work of their life. Right? And so when you look at this transit, if you don't have support, where this North Node in Cancer is coming in, these eclipses that start this year in Cancer. If you guys don't know, July 12th is the first eclipse this summer happening in Cancer, 20 degrees of Cancer, to start to bring this up. Because Cancer also deals with emotions, right? And our feelings and our deeper feelings. And when you mix that with Jupiter in Scorpio this year, and you mix that with a Venus retrograde in Scorpio coming into Libra this year, when you mix all that together, we are about to go through some heavy emotions of, oh man, I'm going to have to do this shit and I don't want to. Because you got to add to the equation that Chiron has just entered into Aries. And Chiron is retrograding back to the 29th degree of Pisces. Oh, what is that degree? That's the degree of full letting go and surrender. And at the exact same time that Chiron's going to go retrograde back into Pisces, it's going to be the exact same time that Uranus is coming back into Aries. At the exact same time that this Saturn-Pluto energy is starting to really get close. There's going to be this thing at the end of the year, which is the biggest choice of your whole entire life, of what you're going to have to do. And that's what's hard, because the decisions we make in the South Node are always in reflection to get us to where we want to go in the North. It's like taking a poop, okay? Because if you look at the South Node, that's like the stern of the boat, the stern of the body. Sometimes you got to poop before you know where you can go, because I don't like going anywhere without taking a poop. You know, it's like, fuck, I got poop in me and I'm here. Like, I don't want to do this. I'm constipated right now. Don't put that food in my face. If we don't shit the shit in our lives out here, and this shit is moving in the place of Capricorn, which is, man, I've got to do this. I've got to reach this place. I've got a spiritual contract with God to reach this marker point, right? That's what we all feel. The hardest part is this Chiron Pisces, Neptune Pisces. Oh, but I want to hold on to this spiritual thing. Like, I'm too compassionate. It's like, no, toughen up. That's what Capricorn and it's to Pisces, right? It's like, toughen up. We're going here. Okay, all right. As long as at the end of the day, it's still ending towards some sort of spiritual bliss, which it is. The hardest part is when you get Chiron at the last degree of Pisces, it kind of is the deepest wound of our life of feeling like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, right? I don't know if I can. Like, this is just too much. But the irony of Uranus and Aries is like, what we've realized. So Uranus just came into Aries in the last couple months, right? And what it did is it put this deep psychological fucking leech in your head that said and saw everything in your life to where you really want to go and what's not fucking going to work. Because Chiron is where nothing works. Remember, Chiron's story is this great centaur out there fighting the battle and gets shot by his own fucking team with an arrow that makes him mortal. Oh. But still finds a way to transmute that into help and to help others and to still keep going on. It's a shitty situation. That's Chiron. And the shitty situation that's coming is realizing that what you want to be and where you want to go is not going to be able to include deep spiritual hang-ups that you still haven't let go of. But that's the ultimate way of the true spiritual revolution happening. Because how can we say we're going to be deep spiritual, amazing light workers and beings, whatever you want to call it, if we have a fucking 50-foot trailer full of shit still? We're going to need fucking a big diesel truck to pull that shit, and you don't want to be doing that when you're on a super highway to the future. You're going to be in the slow lane going up the hill. Downshift. Engine brakes. You want to be in a hypercar fucking zing when we come into Aquarius in 2020 and beyond, right? The 2020s is like going to be the most insane, rapid fire, holy camole change that we've ever felt in our lives. The same way that our government that started in 1775, not 1776, the Continental Army started in 75 when they started printing money and saying, hey, join my army, let's go. But you want to know an interesting statistic is, did you know that only 19% of the people that were part of the Revolutionary War joined, and 81% of the people sat around and was like, am I going to be a Tory or am I going to be an American? I don't know if I can know. I'm just going to sit here and wait and watch. And so when you look at this transit, it's almost like we're about to go through the same thing. A whole new world's about to start, and we're about to create. But who during 2019 is going to do it and who's not? And 2018 is the year that's showing you all the things you know you got to do. And when it's Scorpio, only you know deep inside yourself, and then you don't tell anybody. Or you tell somebody close, or you whisper it, or you delete the message. I know, I hit that shit that people don't want to talk about, because that's what's going down. And that's the scariest part of 2018, is you afraid of your own power to really go where you want to go. And when 2019 hits, if you don't make that big choice and you know deep inside is the one you got to do, you're not going to really enjoy 2019 as that boat's taking off and you got that big trailer and you're trying to fucking follow it. That makes sense? And I think part of the problem, though, if I look at this kind of outside the astrology world and I look at the spiritual community, is the spiritual community is the most fucking ridiculous thing I've ever heard of and seen in my life. Because it's filled with dogma everywhere. Well, you didn't do yoga today, so guess what? You're not spiritual. You didn't eat that today? You didn't eat your kale today? You're not spiritual. You're still wearing that Cartier perfume fucking and cologne from fucking France? You need to use an organic oil. Sorry, the ladies swoon over the French shit. Sorry. My patchouli oil does not smell good on me. The problem is the spiritual community wants everybody to be the same. Which, what is spirituality? You are an individual, beautiful soul. We all like astrology here, right? Have you ever seen an astrology chart that's exactly like somebody else's? No. And so we're in a world right now where the spiritual community is actually turning into the next Christian church. Because they know the best way for you to be. Oh, yeah, no, you got to look like this and do it this way. And if you go to Burning Man now, it's like, okay, did you see what I'm wearing? Now I really fit in. You know, when I used to go to Coachella, I used to go with a T-shirt on and fucking shorts and sandals. And I used to go to Coachella when it was gangster, when it was like real music. I'm in Nashville where it's music town. I'm sure you guys still have festivals where it's real music. And then you have festivals that turned into mainstream bullshit. Spirituality's turning in. What? It's going down right now? Exactly. I know. Blake Shelton's here. Fucking little wimp. Sorry. I think that guy's a pussy. But I do. He's just such a fucking, like, he is. I just said that in Nashville. Yeah, I did. I mean, I think he's, sure, he's maybe great music. I don't know. I'm from California. I don't listen to a lot of country. But just when I read his vibe, he's just so fucking fake. I'm like, oh my God, you know? And poor Gwen Stefani, she had like the real dude fucking from Bush. Even though he did some fucking really bad shit, so I get why they had to break up. But it's almost like she tried to retreat to the most false sense of security in her whole life with a guy who projects that I've got everything perfect in my personality and self. They call that a psychopath. Yeah.
So in other words, you're not going downtown tonight?
No, actually, when we clean up this stuff, I kind of do want to go downtown, but I just want to hang out or something, you know? But going back to this whole spiritual community notion, because I think this is a lot of the Neptunian vibe that we got going on right now, is there's a lot of lines that are being kind of blurred. Like, and when we start to create a home, the problem with creating homes is everybody starts to make, with all these Capricorn energies, rules. No walking in your house with shoes. No going into the backyard and sitting on the grass. No using the living room couch when it's got no protection over it. Bring the doilies out. You've got a fucking Sprite. Bring the doily out and put it on the thing. Jesus Christ, what are you doing? But all these things are happening in the spiritual community right now. Oh my gosh. You've got all these problems. Look at you. You know, it's all your reflection of yourself. Like, I get that. It's true. But it's like everybody now is your fucking counselor spiritually. Like, you're a problem and da-da-da-da-da. And you need to do this. And you need to call this person. And you need to sage the house. And da-da-da. Okay. Fuck. Let me just be a human being for a second. And process all that on my own to figure that one out. Because that's the thing, is spirituality is our own individual uniqueness and beauty. And that's what Aquarius is about. Individual uniqueness in a web of a million people that are similar. Right? Because Aquarius is people, the society. And Leo is the king, right, at the top. So the king every day says something, and it's like, okay, the blacksmiths like me, but, oh, man, the farmers don't like me today. I just put a tariff on fucking cow manure, but I didn't put one on fucking steel. Kind of interesting is going on right now. So that's the problem, is when we look at Uranus and we look at Aquarius, where after 2019, the Aquarius party's gnarly. Because Jupiter and Saturn will conjunct at the very beginning of 2020. And that's a big conjunction because it only happens once every 20 years, okay? Last time it happened was in Taurus. And what's interesting is the last 200 years of the Jupiter-Saturn cycle happened in earth signs. Now it's about to happen in air for the next couple hundred years. So if you look at these last couple of hundred years, and why is Jupiter and Saturn important? Let's talk about that first. Jupiter is the biggest planet, and Saturn's the second biggest planet. And they're both very different. Jupiter wants to open up every doorway, and he's the great uncle who says, hey, smoke this and drink this and have a good time. Fuck what your fucking parents say. Let's have a good time. Right? Live life. And then there's Saturn. Don't you dare touch any of that while you're in there, and don't talk to Uncle David. Whatever you do. And make sure that you're back here at 6:30 because we're getting in the car and we have things to do and we're going to get home. Do you hear me? You know, it's like, okay, I hear you. So they're very opposites, but they're also in battle because they're the two big dogs. And they both have knowledge. Saturn's knowledge is timing, having a plan, and it will get done. Jupiter's is, I don't fucking know how we're going to get there, but let's explore and have a really good time, and I'm sure we'll fucking end up there somehow. What do you got there? Fucking eat it. Take it. Let's see what happens. And 12 hours later, the Capricorn got everything done and is sitting tight and getting back to their neatly tighted bed and setting their alarm for the morning. And okay, good night. And there's the Jupiter. Oh, man, we got there, man. Wasn't that a wild ride? Let me just sleep right here. Fuck it. Wake up in the morning. Where are we? It's the beauty of Jupiter, is that who cares what it looks like? Let's go find it. Let's see it. Let's explore it. But the beauty of Saturn is, hey, I don't want to explore. I don't want to go to your party tonight. I got shit to do. And when you wake up fucked up, I will have it all done. And I'll have some money in my pocket too. Thank you. But when these two align, they work for each other to help each other out. To not only open the doorways, but to also make those doorways possible. And in Aquarius, it's liberation, it's freedom. And how ironic that in 2019, it's this huge Noah's Ark, it's this huge change, and it's this huge thing dealing with reaching our path and our goals. But at the same time, Capricorn is repression of certain things, rules and regulations, and it's going to be hard because as we all feel like we're trying to find our home and get in on alignment, I truly believe that with Facebook and with everything going on right now, there's going to be a huge fake news thing, which is going to be astrology's fake news, tarot's fake news, anything that in our little world of scientific community has not been proven, it's not real, so it's fake. The whole fake news thing wasn't about Trump, it was about a great way to get everybody to buy fake news, to start to see it and then use it as a ploy to censor. Because what else is Pluto and Saturn conjuncting going to do in Capricorn, as it's the most intense, harshest two planets to come together? Restriction. And what I think is going to be hard is the spiritual community is going to have a very tough time trying to figure out where home is when there's not going to be a lot of access to even homes anyway. We're not talking about relationships because that's going to be fixed. But what we're talking about is land, even internet land, that people can find a place. Because Pluto and Capricorn, the last time it was in here was, of course, in the 1700s through the 60s and 1770s. And guess what? It was all about who owns these 13 colonies. Is it really the British or is it us colonialists? They're all the way over there. We're over here. This is our land, damn it. We're going to make a fucking Declaration of Independence. Fuck you. There's a lot of that going to be going on in the spiritual community of where everybody's trying to, I love this word, cockblock the spiritual community from coming together. And with Capricorn, it's funny. You think you're getting through the maze, right? And then boom. Oh, I wasn't ready for that wall. I thought everything was together. Now I got to figure a way to get through this wall. Now, if you remember the book that was written I think it was almost 100 years ago now, 1984, by Orwell, about Big Brother. When you look at the transits of 2019, Big Brother will be at its peak. And what's interesting about Big Brother is in China, they put 220 million CCTV cameras everywhere that read you and go, beep, lead, 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 lead. You're wearing this and you just said this today, so I'm putting you in this category as dangerous. Oh, he's wearing a nice suit. He said something nice about the president and he's hopping in a Mercedes Benz. Put him in the good category. We don't need to worry about him. That's what's going on in China right now. But if you all think that your Facebooks aren't the CCTV camera because you put your picture on there, your age, your date, everything, they already know what you wore, they already know who you talked to yesterday, they already know who your best friends are, they already know what's going on. That's the biggest CCTV camera that was ever built with the whole feeling of that you're free. So that's, I think, the hard part is the spiritual community is going to realize, holy shit, some dark force is still trying to cock block this revolution of spirituality. And in my opinion, it really isn't the 2020s till it really kind of blossoms. And I don't think it's going to blossom like hallelujah. I definitely think there's going to have to be some power troops out there, light workers that are leading the way and saying, this is the way it's going to be. Because in the spiritual community, the other problem is there's a lot of people like, no, you can't be too strong or you can't be too this. It's like, okay, well, I'll go sit in a corner with you in a field and get kicked off because we don't own the land or the festival's over. And nobody's going to do anything? Okay. Right on. And that's the scary part to me is that leaders have to step up, and I think leaders don't mean one person, but the whole group becoming a leader and finding their tool and finding their skill set. Why do you think Uranus is coming into Taurus for this next 7 years after in 2019? It's 8 years, but we're going through the funky in and out. Because Uranus in Taurus forces you to find new skills and new tools and your self-worth and to own it to raise higher. The problem in the spiritual community is there's a money conscious issue. Okay, like bigger than ever, right? It's like, oh my God, they're not spiritual because they have $300 hair and they fucking drive this and da da. They're not spiritual. It's like, fuck you. Or I run a school for astrology, so it's like I have to tell my students like, listen, if you're gonna do a reading, like, these $50 cheap little 30-minute readings, do you really think you're going to survive? Like, you know how good you are. Show up for how good you are. And so besides readings, this comes into us as souls that realizes that Uranus and Taurus during this whole entire time is asking for us all to be like, yo, motherfucker, I'm the shit. Because Aries is not, I'm the shit. All Aries is saying, I'm David, and I'm going to go here. It's a caveman, like ooga booga, I'm going to eat food. Yeah, I'm going to go fuck woman. Yes, okay. Taurus is where you go, did you see I'm wearing this Ted Baker today? Did you see I got that Mercedes out back, girl? Hold on one second. What do I got right here? Oh, yeah. Now, that's the bad, dark side of Taurus, right? Is like letting that define who you are. The light side is saying, oh, what do we got to do together? I got this for you. I got this tool. What do you got? Oh, you know what? Yeah, bring that into the mix. Oh, we're all the shit, right? You're fucking good. I know you're good. I know I'm good. Let's go. That's the bright side of Taurus. Because there's nothing scarier than a pack of bulls running down fucking Spain after a red flag. Like, oh my God, okay. Or, you can't. When you get all the bulls running together, a bull run, can't stop that shit. And that's what Uranus and Taurus is. But a bull run can't happen with a bunch of spiritual people if there's one bull in the back going like, I don't know if I'm really this good enough to do this, guys. Oh, man. Come on. You got this. Because then that's that little one in the back going, and that's not adding to that extra weight if you need to go through a brick fucking wall, right? Of this restriction to let this spiritual revolution open up. Is we need everybody to have that self-worth spiritually to go, let's all go, let's do it. Poof. That's why I love Taurus, because Taurus knows it's a fixed earth sign. Fixed meaning you're fixed on how great you are. And that's not an ego thing. That knows you're good. If you're a mechanic and you've been in it for 30 years, fucking like, give me that fucking alternator. I can do that that's fucking kindergarten. Give me something hard. But when you have questions like, well, I really don't know if I'm good enough, that's where you know you need to work on the most over this next 7-8 years. The other thing about Uranus and Taurus is it forces a bunch of people to come together for a higher cause that is going to create something. Now, unfortunately, the dark side of that was in the 30s when there was a whole Nazi party that came out that had good intentions at the beginning, but kind of went really south. Because if actually you listen to the beginning parts of what Hitler had to say, and I might get a lot of shit for this one, but if you listen to it, and you listen to actually the speeches in English and translated, you'll be like, oh, whoa, what? I kind of like agree with this guy. Like, I'm talking about the 30s, not the 40s, everyone, or even the late 30s. I'm talking about the beginning. It was about unity, and it was about positivity and peace and all this stuff. But somehow that thing went really fucking south, you know what I mean? Like, what happened to that one, you know? And so, and by the way, he was a Taurus. So it's interesting to see on how Uranus and Taurus plays itself out in very mysterious ways. But that bull run of the Nazis was insane. Look what it was able to do until it broke apart because it didn't hold on to high values. It held on to dark values. And Uranus won't let any bull run go if it's dark values. If it's not values that come from bettering the earth and bettering the people, it might look like it's going to win, but trust me, Uranus always fucks with you at the last second when you weren't ready for it. And guess what? You're like, oh my God, never mind. That didn't happen. So don't be afraid when you start to see people rise and start to go, oh my gosh, this looks like it's going to just take everything down. And it's a bad cause. Trust me, Uranus and Taurus will never fucking let a bad cause rise. Ever. Ever. Because Uranus is the ruler of those higher heavens. And when you have that higher heaven ruler looking down on what is of good, what is going to help the world, what is of value, it's like a price checker at a grocery store going like, oh, you bought the cheap paper towels? Okay. Teet. Oh, you got the bounties? All right, cool. That's all Uranus and Taurus is. It's like literally just like looking at what's quality and what's not. If it's not quality for the planet, it's kind of actually the better. It's not a price checker. It's like a buyer for a fashion store, right? Who comes in and goes, let me see what kind of clothes you got in here. Oh my God, this is crap. We're not putting this in our store. Uranus and Taurus will not let things on earth. Maybe it might be up, but some of the other stores are selling it. But at the end of the day, everybody's going to go, yeah, this is crap. So don't worry about the future and some dark force coming to run like bulls and take us all down again. Ain't going to happen. But what I do notice during that time was the rise up of good people. Took them a while, but they did rise up and they did squash all that. And that was when America was really nice, you know, really good. And actually, it's okay. I'll still sip it out of there. No. If we look at America, America wasn't even a superpower until the end of World War II, once we saved everybody's butts. And then everybody said, look at these people. But that was actually Uranus and Gemini. And what's interesting, and I'm going to kind of jump to the future a little more, because Uranus comes into Taurus, and then it leaves in 8 years, and then it comes into Gemini. Now, what has happened every time that Uranus has been in Gemini? For America. Does anybody know? Oh, thank you, David. Nobody knows? Think about this one for just 1 second while I blow my nose. It's Uranus and Taurus, so money and value is changing. So if anybody wants the mucus from a double Leo called the Leo King, I'm selling it for $5,000. If anybody wants it. All right. Every time that Uranus comes into Gemini, it was the Revolutionary War, it was the Civil War, and it was World War II, the 3 biggest wars that America has ever been into. So when you look at the world right now, as the biggest defense bill was just done, and you look at what happened in the 1930s with Uranus in Taurus, was the building production of America's military, knowing they were going to go to a war, but just waiting and selling our crap to the British. Oh, yeah, we don't like those ships and planes. They're shit. Here, have them, but it'll help you guys. I don't want to say there's a war coming, but with Uranus getting ready to come into Gemini in 8 years, there's the buildup of a whole world. And when you look at all this Capricorn stuff, the whole game of risk is changing the players on the board. So it was weird. At one time, America and Russia went in and invaded Germany together and won the war. Now, everybody says that America and Russia hate each other. When you come into Uranus and Taurus, the world, countries, especially with all this Capricorn, holy cow, which rules governments, are all going to change. The connections and all that stuff. So, it's happening today and yesterday as we're talking. And you can't freak out about this because it's like we're so used to, remember, all this Capricorn tradition. Oh, yeah, we've always been friends with Canada. Really? Are we going to always be friends with Canada? I don't know. My wife's probably chipping because she's from Canada as I talk about this because who knows? Maybe America and Canada decide not to become friends anymore. And that's what's going to be funky is relationships are about to make their biggest change at the end of this year. And that's also going to affect countries too. And when you follow the next 8 years, the whole board game of risk is like thrown out and reset. Who's on whose team and who is the axis of evil and who is not. And the biggest question of everything, and why I want to connect this back to having a home and your roots with your family and making sure you guys are all on the same motherfucking team here, is because what if America actually becomes the bad guy? If you look at the chart, it's kind of gnarly what's about to happen to America. I was just in Washington, D.C., and I had done the chart a couple years prior, but Washington, D.C. came way after we won the war, was not during the war. And Washington, D.C. was built on, or Washington picked it, and it was founded on July 16th, 1790. And if you look at the chart of Washington, D.C., holy cow, it's about to go through some shit. If you look at the chart of America, oh my gosh, it's about to go through even more stuff. And that's what's going to be weird, is needing a foundation in your life. Because who knows what's going to happen to this place? That's all I'm going to say. And this place is definitely going to go through some really big, major growing pains. And when I talked about my talk in D.C., it was, of course, more political based and more governmental based. But you have a problem on the earth with Neptune and Pisces where is this going to stay a republic or, like MSNBC and CNN say, a democracy, which it's not. That's the battle. Does this nation rise from the closest to freedom, which is a republic? Well, actually, anarchy is all the way right. But then it goes to republic, which is not a centralized government that controls everything, but individual states that could decide their own laws, and the federal government kind of looks over. But that was how the founding fathers wanted it. But when you move up to democracy, then you become closer towards more socialized governmental stuff. And one of the biggest things that are coming right now in our break in society with America, and why it's going to be important to have your family and everything and knowing your path and sticking together, is this place is about to go through its own civil war and Revolutionary War and World War II at the same motherfucking time. Because all the planets are there. Last time the Revolutionary War, Pluto and Capricorn into Aquarius. That's happening in the next 6 years. Actually, 5 years. Uranus moving from Taurus into Gemini. That's also happening in this next cycle. Not exact, but the same things that built us up to it. The other major one was Neptune and Pisces during the Civil War. They're all happening at the same time. And when you look at the charts of America, whether that's the Declaration of Independence or whether that's the chart of DC itself, both charts are about to go through hell and back. Because this Pluto-Saturn conjunction and all this stuff is opposing both Cancers. Cancer suns. DC is a 24-degree Cancer, and then July 4th has been this, 16-degree Cancer that's been going through hell with the Pluto-Uranus square, but it's not even ready to go through its biggest stuff yet because it's about to have its Pluto return. And a lot of people have a debate whether it's a Sagittarius rising or a Gemini rising, but every time Uranus comes into Gemini, holy motherfuck, because it opposes or conjuncts that rising, and Uranus was returning because it was Uranus in Gemini, and holy cow, we're about to go through a Pluto conjunction or a redo while a Uranus comeback is coming. So if you just look, it's going to be so important for us spiritual communities to find home and to rebuild a better foundation for us all to feel secure in. I'm not saying that you should be scared, because I don't think that this is going to be scary, like, oh my God, America's being torn down, or, like that movie with like Korea coming in and dropping in. I don't think that stuff's going down. But when it comes to the electrical grids, which is Aquarius and Pluto's coming in, and because all of 2019 is about structures, those structures are old. Technology is actually about to reach everybody thinks technology is about to explode. But the truth is we're built on an old grid from the 18th and 19th century, and we're trying to go into the 21st century. And do you really think the technology is going to be able to handle the way that we do energy and all that stuff? No. There's going to be a stop where we realize, holy shit, in order for us to do this, we need to fix all that stuff. So whether that's attacks on the electrical grid or attacks on our internet or attacks on things that make us need to remember where we have a home. Because right now, if all that were to happen, guess what? Where would you go? So I'm not trying to give the survivalist this whole more ammunition, because I don't think it's going to be that. But I definitely feel like it's if you have your spiritual home and everybody has the same goal and everybody's in the same place and supporting each other and has a right foundation, you can get through much easier than feeling scattered and don't know where to go. And when I hate to use the term chaos, but Aquarius is the home of chaos. But in the middle of chaos is always the most peaceful space at the same time. And I feel that we can all find that in this room during the most chaotic times that we're about to reach by everything that we were talking about today. Does that all make sense? Because I think all of us are so aware now, and all of us really, have this great awareness spiritually and are so awake to where we're able to finally really go, you know what? I know how I can deal with these crazy things that the world's going to go through. I have my unit. I have my awareness. I know where I'm going. I know these tough choices I got to make in 2018 at the end of the year in order to make sure I'm on that path so I can stay on that direction and go. Because if you do go, I feel the universe has got everybody's back in the right direction because you're going with where the universe is going. You'll be fine. But when you look at this weird future about electrical grids and water especially, those are going to be the most major things that are going to be changing. And when you're dealing with a country, and it's really going to be whoever is president in 2020. Because every 0 year, except for Bush, I don't know how he got out of that one, but a president gets shot or killed or dies in office, except Reagan in 1980 was shot, but he survived. And then, of course, he had Joan Quigley, the awesome astrologer, and Nancy said, "You're listening to an astrologer now." And Reagan survived through having an astrologer plan every plane ride on Air Force One and every meeting and everything. That's a true story. You can watch it on YouTube and watch all the videos about it, and even Nancy talking about it. But 2020, with Jupiter-Saturn conjunct, is that every time that president comes in, when Jupiter and Saturn come around, fucking everybody's like, what the fuck? So when Reagan came in 1980, he was hated. When he made his tax cuts and everything, he was so hated he got shot. When Kennedy came in this 1960 with the last Jupiter-Saturn before that, he tried to do things. He got shot. So don't let the president right now fool you where whoever becomes president in 2020, that's the one that will, whether it's Trump or whether it's not or someone different, that's the one that's going to trigger this shit. So you all got some time. I think that when we look at 2018 and we reflect back at the end of this year, we're going to realize that this was a year to properly set ourselves up. And to not deny ourselves of our true being, our true feeling, our true senses, our true knowing. That's the ultimate test, is our spiritual knowing. Because if we deny that spiritual knowing, then we are not following our true essence of ourself. And we are not trusting that higher power that is sending us the message of reflection of the confirmation of that knowing. And I think that's the scariest part, is whether or not we want to listen to that truth that is being told only deep within of ourselves right now. And we are seeing the visions of what to do. And we are becoming more clairvoyant and more psychic than we ever have in our lives at this dear moment right now. But everybody's holding that movie like an old blockbuster back here and just not talking about it and not bringing out the movies and pushing play and showing people. Everybody's a little afraid because it's so new and it's so intense and it's so powerful. And there are going to be unhappy people because of whatever you choose. You are going to deal with sensitivities of the yin-yang and have to do some of the toughest calls of your life. Sounds fun, right? There was something that I was going to say, and I just forgot it, that I've been trying, my guides have been reminding me, and I've been avoiding it. Like, okay, I'll get to that, guys. You know, like, and see, I can't make that shit up. I cannot make that shit up. You know what I mean? And I still don't know what it is, but I'm sure they'll give it to me during the question and answer. But at the end of the day, the spiritual foundation of who you are is at the bottom bedrock of foundation. And that's who you know you are, and you live it, and you breathe it, and you do not say no to it, but you say yes to it. And we all have never in our lifetimes ever got to this place to where we can truly say, I'm gonna do it all the way I feel, the way I want to live my life, the way I want to express myself, the way that I want to do this. The universe is finally ready for you to do that. So don't be afraid of it, and don't be afraid of the repercussions to whatever it is, because if anybody, whether it's a person or whether it's a job or whether it's anything in the world, they will understand because they know in themselves that they've got to do that for themselves too. And if they don't, well, then you just know exactly where they're at. But that's not your problem. The other thing is the next level comes finding the right support system. Because you can't have a support system unless you're fully 100% all in with who you are fully expressing that self. So trying to get a support system when you're half-assing it, you are going to have a half-ass support system. And I think that's the hardest part, is that support system is trying to come together for the spiritual community, but the spiritual community still, and not that we're all fucked up, but, you know, that we all are still dealing with a lot of our old stuff, and still, even the best of us are still not at our best of living in our true, authentic, real, emotional, spiritual self that we really want to be. That's what this year's about. The level above that spiritual support then comes into finally starting to be able to do great work. Because now you're at a place where you're supported, and you're supported because of the support of who you really are, and there are no damning, there are no doubts, there are no shaming, there is no bullshit down there, because at the bottom of that, your well of your true self is out. All of that support's around you, and that is your foundation. And that allows you to do great things in the world. But if we don't listen to that self, it becomes like your roots start to swell back up into the tree. And then the tree starts to wither. And then the tree starts to hunch over. And then you're like in a Sleepy Hollow movie. And you turn into like Ichabod Crane or something. And I always feel bad for Ichabod Crane. He's so terrified of the Headless Horseman. It's crazy. And I think the Headless Horseman was a reflection for Ichabod Crane of him not living in his power and being forced to finally deal and live in it. And I think we all don't want to go to that place, if that makes sense. I think on a world stage, when it comes to finding a family, I think this country is looking to reunify itself emotionally. But that's hard when there's so much shaming of which way to be or which way's the best way. When you look at Neptune and Pisces, is exactly what happened. It was a debate of not only slavery, it was higher than, I don't want to say it was higher than slavery, but it was really about whether or not, like, if this is a free country, I should be able to do what I'm able to do. Well, it's like, okay, where's the boundary lines of what that is? Like, does that mean you can murder people too in that state? There were some really weird boundary lines that were crossed that needed to be figured out. And we're all at that space now. We're at that space with a lot of different things, though, at the same time. It's not just one thing. It's women's rights right now. And that was the thing that my guides wanted to talk about. But I'll get back to that in a second. They're laughing now. Because they want me to finish this. It's not only just women's rights. It's gay rights. It's a million different rights of just people allowing themselves to be people. Right? It's marijuana rights. There's a million different things that are coming up in this clash of what to be. It's immigration. I think immigration is the newest thing, like the Civil War, it's going to be a big one. Oh, my guides want me to talk about this too. And because I didn't say it actually in my business in New York slide. I did say it in this thing I did called the Age of Darkness, or Rising Through the Darkness that's coming. Is if you look at, and I predicted this before Apple came out, that slave camps are going to be the next corporation camps. Like, come work for Apple and you can live here and we'll pay your rent and live with us and your whole family can come too. Come work for Target. We've got Target apartments in the back. That's going to be the scariest stuff that you'll ever see. And avoid those places. Don't fall for the carrot on that one. So let's go to the women's thing here. And especially I think that this is important when it comes to the family, and especially how, I don't want to give all the women credit, but it's true. Like, the center of a family is a woman. Not only does it give it birth, but it nurtures the family and it keeps it together. And why do you think the mother and why do you think the woman in Cancer is represented by the moon and represented by the nurturing? And what is a family but a nurturing place? In 2012, the star Regulus in tropical astrology shifted to the 0-degree mark of Virgo. It had been in Leo for as long as we've known our mankind, pretty much. And that's a regal star that creates Leo, its regality. So that's why you see things like the church, and especially, more importantly, our royal families now. If you look at the Queen just recently, she just said, well, I guess if Philip or Harry has if Philip has a kid and it's a girl, I guess she can be queen. That was the first time that ever was able to happen. Up until recently, it had to be a male that had to be born to become king. The only reason why Elizabeth even got that was because, you guys know the whole story. And so when that happened in 2012, that made, because also, what is the virgin? The virgin is a woman. It's the virgin. It's a two-part sign, of course. It's not only the virgin, but it's also wheat and the purity and the harvesting. And what's interesting now is that what is becoming regal is the feminine energy of purity. That purity is regal. Not how many gold statues you have, not how big your castle is, not how deep your bloodline rises, because Virgo rules the common human being. Where Leo rules the kingdom, you come right into Virgo, which is just common. It's the carpenter. It's the common. And I think with Jesus' story, it's interesting that Jesus tried to, come out as a carpenter and come out with his light and his feminine energy as well, and completely was suppressed and thrown on a cross and killed. This time, the rising up of the feminine energy has the support not only of the star Regulus, but if you look at the Venus cycles, which, have you guys ever seen like the Venus star that it does? If you look at what Venus looks like from Earth's perspective, it makes this beautiful star pattern every time it retrogrades and goes direct. Because if you ever follow Venus, Venus is either the morning star or the evening star. So every time that we have the retrograde and everything, it switches, right? It switches from the evening to the morning star. And when it does this big switch, if you were to record the lines of what it looks like the most beautiful star in your life. I should actually show you all. right here. Hold on. It's right here. Eye watches are beautiful. And this is the most important thing for women too, because Venus rules women, of course, right? Men are ruled by Mars. Here. And you guys can look this on your phones when we're taking a break later, and just look at it and be mesmerized by it. But the Venus star pattern is extremely beautiful when you actually look at it from how it works. Again, also during the witch time, why do you think women who were drawing this were killed? Right? Sit on that one for a minute. So what's been happening, though, in this star pattern, especially during our lifetime, during this 20th century, and even, 20th century into 21st century, okay, so the last 100 years, this last century, is Venus has been retrograding in signs it hates. Last one was where? Aries, where it's at detriment. Where was the one before that? Virgo, where it's at its fall. Where was the one before that? You could just keep following the cycle and it will never go into its home sign or the sign it wants to be in, which is Libra and Taurus, or Pisces where it's exalted. It has not. But this year, as Venus will come direct in Libra, its home sign, this is the female energy finally restoring to its full balance. And part of the breaking of traditions and part of the changing of the whole structure and what we're about to experience in our life is the feminine energy rebalancing itself. The other thing that I want to say about this Venus cycle, which is interesting to me, is the last one so every 8 years, Venus will retrograde in the area in which it did last time. So if you guys come back to 8 years ago, which would have been November of 2010, was when the last time this retrograde was coming up. And it was interesting because it happened in Scorpio, and it stayed in Scorpio, and it went direct in Scorpio. So it kind of actually was the culmination or the start point of this whole weird Scorpio shit with sex and deep connection and relationships that started in 2010. At the same time, Saturn was in Libra. So there's even more connections on how this lasts not only 33 years, but it peaked over the last 8 years that relationships have been the weirdest fucking place on the planet. I mean, now you can go on fucking Tinder and just be like, no, yes, no, go out to dinner. That was great. Okay, I don't fucking know what that was. Or you're hearing about teacher-student relationships, or, I mean, I can go on for hours of the craziest relationships in the world, right? Or there was that Courtney Stodden girl, remember her? That 16-year-old that married that dude, that actor or whatever. He was like in a couple movies or whatever, I don't know. And then she became like this famous crazy girl because she was like 15. But there's just been the weirdest relationships in the world, you know? It's kind of like looking at Hugh Hefner, too, and his relationship life, especially in the last 8 years, when you obviously knew they all weren't fucking there for love. And I don't think he gave a fuck either, because he just took pictures in a robe and was just barely alive, hanging on, going, well, this is great. But so look at your life in November of 2010, because the issues that came out with you in relationships at that time, you probably were fooled, because Venus in Scorpio makes it look like it's going to be all good. Yeah. And then, and so that's an 8-year cycle we're closing as well, about trust, intimacy, and sexual connection that needs to be redone, and finally with Jupiter finishing in Scorpio and no major planets that are going to go retrograde in Scorpio for a long time. It's like, oh, yeah. That's what people have been waiting for. And that's what the twin flame energy has been all about. Everybody's been waiting for that twin flame moment, which is coming at the end of this year. And especially a twin flame can only happen. So I'm about to call the biggest bullshit, and I'm sorry if you think you got your twin flame out there, but if the feminine energy isn't exactly at the same degree as the masculine energy on the world, do you really think there's fucking twin flames yet? No. Now twin flames can work once both are equal.